then you will truly be success.
Turn the page.
And we know all things work together for the good.
Gotta work together.
The good.
Gotta work together. Oh.
And we know all things work together for the good.
Gotta work together.
The good to those who love God.
Keep God's word on your lips.
To those who are called.
Meditate on it day and night.
According to His
Be careful
purpose.
to do what
Purpose.
He says.
It's His purpose, not mine. And we know all things work together for the good.
Gotta work together.
The good.
Gotta work together. Oh.
And we know all things work together for the good.
Gotta work together.
The good. To those who love God.
Keep God's word on your lips.
To those who are called.
Meditate on it day and night.
According to His
Careful
purpose.
to do what
Purpose.
He says.
It's His purpose, not mine.
In the same way, wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands, so that, even if some disobey the word, they may be won over without a word by the way their wives live, when they observe your pure, reverent lives. Don't let your beauty consist of outward things like elaborate hairstyles and wearing gold jewelry, but rather what is inside the heart, the imperishable quality of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight. For in the past, the holy women who put their hope in God also adorned themselves in this way, submitting to their own husbands, just as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord. You have become her children when you do what is good and do not fear any intimidation. Husbands, in the same way, live with your wives in an understanding way, as with a weaker partner, showing them honor as co-heirs of the grace of life, so that your prayers will not be hindered. Finally, all of you, be like-minded and sympathetic. Love one another and be compassionate and humble, not paying back evil for evil or insult for insult, but on the contrary, giving a blessing, since you were called for this, so that you may inherit a blessing. For the one who wants to love life and to see good days, let him keep his tongue from evil and his lips from speaking deceit. And let him turn away from evil and do what is good. Let him seek peace and pursue it, because the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are open to their prayer. But the face of the Lord is against those who do what is evil. Who then will harm you if you are devoted to what is good? But even if you should suffer for righteousness, you are blessed. Do not fear what they fear, or be intimidated, but in your hearts regard Christ the Lord as holy, ready at any time to give a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Yet do this with gentleness and respect. All right, so today I really want to look at verse 15. In verse 15, Peter's telling his audience that they should be ready at any time to give a defense to anyone for the hope that they have as believers. People should be ready to give a defense to anyone who asks about the hope that they have as believers. What does this mean? Well, it does not mean that we have to be able to answer every question or win every argument. I literally just had lunch yesterday with Dr. Ray Siervo. He's going to be joining us in a couple weeks for the book of John and on the show right here. I'm excited about that. He's an international teacher who teaches primarily apologetics, which in Christian circles is this idea of basically, it's a study of giving a defense for the faith. So it's very much what we're talking about in this verse. But I want to say first that I value very much the work that he does and the work that many others do in that space of showing the rationality and the reason of the Christian faith. But let me also say that I don't think that Peter is expecting all of us to get a doctorate in apologetics like Dr. Siervo is. I do think, however, that we need to consider the hope that we have for the sake of those around us. And we need to be able to articulate why it is compelling for us. Guys, this is the most important thing in our lives. We're talking about what Jesus has done for us, right? This is very personal to us. And for many of us, including me, the strongest apologetic that I can give is what God has actually done in my life. People ask me to make arguments about, and I'm happy to engage in those conversations. And you know what? It's good to learn those things and try to defend our faith and understand why we believe what we believe. But before you get into all of that, the most basic thing is we should be able to give a defense for the hope that we have. And the most first level defense is what God has done for us. It's your story. And as God does things in your life, you should write them down and note them and be willing to share that with anybody. When somebody asks about those things, be willing to give God the credit. Like we talked about a few days ago, be willing to boast in God. That's the boasting we should be doing. Back to verse 15. If you look at the next verse right after it, you'll see that the believer is called to give this reason for her hope, but we're called to do it with, quote, gentleness and respect. Two questions for you today. Number one, what does it look like for you and for me to be ready to give a defense for the incredible hope that we have as believers? And two, can you think of a way that you currently fight for the faith that may not be with gentleness or respect? I think both of those questions will be challenging for many of us today. Let's think on them.
Hold up, so we rolling? Yep. Oh, we rolling? Oh, my bad. Day 83 is a lot like what's happening right now. The topic is, don't just get ready, be ready. Because purpose is going to find you, and you cannot afford to be getting ready. Your shoes got to be tied. Your seatbelt got to be on. You got to make sure the kicks are fresh. When you leave the house, purpose is going to meet you today. Don't just get ready, be ready. One of my favorite sopranos, her name is Mildred Page. Mildred Page went home to be with the Lord a couple days around the time that my stepfather went home to be with the Lord. So I know that they were singing because one of Mildred Page's favorite songs was I've Got Heaven on My Mind. Keeps me singing all the time. And then she would walk. In the church, she would walk. She was singing every single week. And then when she got to a certain part about talking about heaven, she would break down crying. It was memorable. Mildred Page loved this scripture that I know by heart, and it's found in Peter. But sanctify the Lord with your heart, and be ready always to give an answer to those who ask for the reason of the hope that is within you. Be ready. Today, you don't have time to get ready. You have to be ready. Some people will go to sleep because they're tired. You need to grind right now because tomorrow's coming. And you can't just be getting ready. You gotta be ready. You ready?